hello, my lords and lordships, all that good stuff, yeah. Hope everybody's been doing good. You know, I just want to talk about this major release in theaters, but it was terrible. And that's obviously a bad British accent. No offense to those. If anybody does watch us that are in English or has that kind of accent, I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm just being stupid.
You just created a lot of enemies. He's the one that did it. It wasn't me. I love the UK. I love the King's country. I have nothing to say bad about the stale food.
Oh, well, I mean, you just made some enemies there too. But you know what? Let's stop with the enemy creating, Bernie, and let's all just rant, which is our general purpose. So, if you haven't guessed by what we're talking about with my horrible accent and our thumbnail and whatnot, we're talking about the latest novel adaptation, romance story, whatever you want to call it, and that is Wuthering Heights, starring Jacob Elordi, which I hope I'm saying his name right, and Margot Robbie. And it's directed by Emerald Fennell. That's pretty much it. This is a spoiler-free review, so we're not going to really get into it unless you've read the book or maybe seen the original version, which came out some time ago. But yeah, if you guys did happen to like the video or like my stupid accent, which it's okay if you don't, I understand, and just like seeing me and Bern talk about our stuff, feel free to show us your support with that thumbs up, ring the bell for notifications, and of course subscribe, just because we appreciate you all joining in and watching our stuff, comments, likes, whatever. We just appreciate all that you do. So I have never read the book. I didn't even know anything about this movie until recently, but given this Valentine's Day weekend, I'm taking my lady out. I was like, you know what, we can go see this movie, and we did. And I went into it with little expectations, just because, full disclosure, romance movies are not my forte. The novel. Then I had no idea anything about this novel whatsoever, so definitely went into this as just a regular moviegoer. And again, the best way I can put this is it's almost like an unforbidden, like kind of denied love story between an adopted boy and this girl who's the daughter of like a landlord. And you know, as they grow up, they start developing feelings for each other, but then of course society has plans and, you know, causes trouble for them basically. And Margot, I want to say I really like the actors in this, like Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie, who are primarily the selling point of this entire film. I think they're awesome. I think they've done well in some of the most recent works. And this movie they acted well, but overall, this movie was just not good in my opinion. I did not care for this story. And before I really get into the reasons why I didn't like it, I just want to say this feels less like a romance story and more of like a lust story, if that makes sense. Like I feel like there is a difference between being lustful and then actually like being in love with someone. But anyways, that's just my personal opinion. Bern, what did you think about this movie, and did you have any sort of expectations going into it?
Well, so for me, like you, I'm not familiar with a novel, so I can't really review the movie like with that lens. So I'm definitely coming to it much like Rye is, where I'm only reviewing the movie for the movie. I know there's a lot of discussion around how good of an adaptation this is, you know, where it fails, and there's all that discussion like why like certain things are different, or why certain, you know, I'm not aware of that at all. You know, I can only review the movie for the movie. So if you're looking for someone's perspective, you know, who's read the books, and definitely go seek that out. But this is definitely coming from someone who has no familiarity with the source material whatsoever. So I was coming into this with a pretty like fresh mind. I like the actors involved in it. Emerald Fennell, I really liked Promising Young Woman that she directed. I did like Saltburn to a lesser extent, but still found some enjoyment in that. So I was definitely looking sort of forward to seeing what she did next, because I think she has a very interesting eye in terms of like a cinematography and visuals, and I don't think that's not the case here at all. I think this movie is gorgeous to look at. Actually, I think a lot of the set design, the production design, the costumes, everything on the visual aspects of this movie just really worked for me in terms of this really dark gothic romance. I know you don't want to call it a romance, but you know, this is, even if it is tragic, I would still call it a romance. But yeah, it very much fits that sort of, I think she really captured that sort of vibe and aesthetic that just like it's well, some things like we don't really see a lot in movies or in some TV shows here and there, but not like to this sort of stylized extent. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also really enjoyed the music of the movie. I thought the score was good. I thought the music from Charlie XCX was good here. So on those technical aspects and you know, the performances themselves for what they were, I really enjoyed. I thought, you know, this was really nice to look at. That this was nice to listen to. But everything else besides that just kind of felt bland. I don't know any other way to put it. And I don't think this movie did anything, again, coming from someone who hasn't read the books, anything to offend me in any way, or did anything to make me hate this movie or think this was just awful. I just wish it made me feel more things. It was just weird to say about a tragic romance story. You know, usually that's kind of what you want from people, is getting this sort of like a reaction from them. I think the two leads, as good as they are, I do feel they are kind of miscast because the roles feel like they were written for people who are younger, you know, people who are more naive, people who are coming of age and don't really understand their own feelings and the world they operate in. Both these actors are like over 30 years old, so it's kind of hard to see the way like Margot Robbie's character acts in this movie and see that coming from her when it feels like it should be coming from someone who's much younger. Again, her and Jacob Elordi are really, really good actors. So, you know, the performances they give are good. It's just, it feels like it's a role that should have been better played by someone, again, much younger. And for both roles, I think. I think Alison Oliver, if I'm saying her name right, I think she gives a really fun performance here. I think one of the more interesting performances in the movie. Hong Chow, I think, is really good too. So again, individually the performances are great. It's just, again, the with the two leads, it feels a little bit miscast, and a lot of the times with the characters too, there feels like there's weird tonal shifts from in within the movie where it feels like in one moment it's trying to take itself very seriously, and in other moments it's getting very campy, which, you know, I don't mind the camp at all. I'm really okay with getting a lot more very weird, very out there things in movies, but it has to work, and it just feels like it didn't really come together in this one. So overall, this movie kind of left me a little bit all over the place. You know, it didn't really feel focused. Again, there were times where the movie just kind of felt boring. Well, not like boring, but bland for as much of a erotic, romantic, dark thriller that it was kind of like advertising in the lead up to it. It felt kind of tame, and it felt very much sort of like. I wish it could have gone further than just, oh, we can't, we mustn't, oh, but we were going to do it anyway, oh, but we can't. So I felt like they like could have gone a little bit more than that. So again, this movie had all the elements that should work, but it just didn't really come together completely for me, and all the ways outside of the visuals and the sound of it all.
That's very fair. And then Gothic is definitely, I think, interesting. I got some Gothic aspect, but it almost reminded me of like some I wish I was still touched up on my art style. So, you know what? Never mind. I don't want to get into it, mislabel anything like that. But that's very fair, Bern. I do agree with you that the visuals were solid in this one. I think the cinematography was on point. The scenery was like, the location was beautiful. And just some of the styles with like the production and the clothing and the costume design, I thought was pretty good. I know that's been a complaint too about the historical accuracy of this, and I was like, I guess that didn't really matter to me. Again, I never read the book. I think my biggest thing was, I think you kind of nailed on the head why I probably didn't like it as much. Because, yeah, like the way the characters and their motivation, I don't know how accurate it was to the book, but the motivations definitely were very like, I don't know. They just didn't. And what I say, like, yes, it is a romance story, but it felt like this wasn't like true love in that way. And I think that's kind of like a good romance movie that I think was like that for me was Crazy Rich Asians, even though it's very different time and stuff like that. But I just felt like, yeah, it was just very much like on the lust thing. Like, this reminded me of something like I would watch on like Netflix. It kind of gave some Bridgerton vibes in a way, where it's definitely like supposed to take place in the classic setting, but more modernized and stylized, which isn't necessarily a big deal, but it just felt a little clunky. Maybe if it was a younger cast, I think the motivations would make more sense, just because the characters were a little all over the place. Like, you know, like there's a lot of hatred in here. There's love and lust and, you know, like jealousy and stuff like that. There's a lot going on emotionally, like any sort of romance story, but it just did not connect for me. But I'm not going to knock necessarily Margot Robbie or Jacob Elordi because they were great. I think they're still talented actors. I just did not care for the way this story was written whatsoever. But I do agree with you. I did like Hong Chow and what was the other one you just brought up? I'm sorry, Bernie. I'm blanking on it right now.
Alison Oliver as Isabella. Again, I don't know how accurate her character was to the book. I've seen things that say that it's very much not. But again, the performance that she gives in the movie for the movie that's written and the character, the way that it's written, she seemed to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah, the supporting cast, the cast in general, I think was definitely like, if you like, that's definitely the best selling point for this movie. But other than that, I just wasn't vibing with it. I did hear some people gasping at certain things, even though I was like, were you guys not paying attention to the movie? That's already a known thing. I'm not going to spoil what, but and then I did hear some people crying in the end, like some like sniffles and weeping and stuff. I'm just like, good for you guys. I'm glad you all loved it. I did not. So, and no offense to those who do like it. If you liked it, that's awesome, but not for me. So, with everything being said and just my gut feeling with this one, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. I think this is definitely targeted towards like maybe like either young adults going through stuff or like maybe I did see them on social media where it's like wine moms, quote unquote. And I was like, you know what, that I can kind of see that, but I think it's going to be very hit or miss for people. That's kind of how it's feeling with critics and stuff. It's definitely playing everywhere. My lady and I, we did happen to see it in IMAX, but I don't think that's necessarily a requirement. Really up to you guys how much you're eager to see this movie, or you could save it for a $5 Tuesday, and you know, so that way it's not like breaking the bank, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're a fan of a good smut novel, you know, I think this will be right up your alley. You know, we got to cater to some people. You know, there's a little bit for everyone out there, and I think it definitely leans more on the erotic smut side than it does on like a true, you know, nicely tidied up romance story. This one's definitely on the more messier side. So if you're into more messy characters and them trying to deal with their feelings and stuff, and the scandal of it all, that this will be more right up your alley. I mean, I think that's kind of like where I stand on it, where it's like, it feels like that's kind of what it like advertised itself as, but it really didn't feel like it went all the way with it at the same time. Again, felt pretty tame for other things that it was kind of like building up to in the marketing of it. So, and that's not the marketing's fault. You know, you got to sell the movie. I just wish the movie delivered on that promise. If we're gonna have all these like really messy characters who aren't really that great people, you kind of want to get lost in just like the craziness of it all. And I feel like it didn't really go all the way with that. And that's unfortunate because I feel like it could have had a lot more fun with the premise and with the role. Again, the script itself feels like it's a little bit undercooked here. The two leads, although they're great, feel like it's a little bit miscast. But again, the movie looks and sounds really good. So, you know, funnily enough, this kind of like makes me think it's like, oh, so this is what people talk about when they talk about Zack Snyder's movies. You know, they look and sound great, but does he really understand the characters? Maybe to some people he does, maybe to others he doesn't. So maybe Emerald Fennell is ticking over that niche when it comes to a female director. So hey, get it, you know, if that's going to be what you want to do. So for me, this one's going to be a 2 out of 5. Go for the visuals. I mean, again, this is probably one of the most gorgeous movies I'll probably see all year. And you know, and we're early on in the year now, but I think I can safely say that because it looks good. The costumes look really great. So if you're just into all those like aesthetic things, this one's going to be eye candy for you for sure. But if you're looking for anything else other than that, it's one that's really hard to recommend to anyone else.
So what you're saying is, Bernie, this is like what Bike Riders was for me and some automotive enthusiasts. This will be that for romance or smut people.
This is the Batman versus Superman of romance novels.
The Zack Snyder thing got me.
Quote it, everybody.
Again, that's why I pay you the imaginary big bucks, Bernie, because you just know your stuff. But anyways, so 2 out of 5 for both me and Burn. Definitely take it with a grain of salt as always. But yeah, we're nearing the end of February, so March has some interesting movies coming out, like A24's Undertone. I'm actually really looking forward to that after watching a few trailers, and we got some more horror coming out earlier this year, which I'm always digging. So until next time, everybody, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.